The meeting of the Plaquemines Council as sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District will now come to order. The machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect that all 9 commissioners are present. We'll all rise, follow me, and I'll say the prayer, and then follow Commissioner Newsom for the pledge. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom. And we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this government body, composed of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong, the courage to do what is right, and also, in our deepest prayer, we pray for the protection of those innocent men, women, and children who are presently enduring unbearable hardships due to the Middle East conflict. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we thank you all for being here today. Before we do anything, for purposes of brevity, what we're going to do is we're going to take up an item on the port agenda under item 7, which is introductions of resolutions wherein suspension is being sought. Once we complete that item, the port will recess, and Councilmember LaFrance will call the council meeting to order, at which time we will go to item 7 on the council agenda, which has to also do with the suspension. Once that business is taken care of, we will recess the council meeting and reconvene as a port to take care of the remainder of our port business. This has nothing to do with the land issues that are on the table or any of that. That will be taken care of when the port comes into session after the recess. So, please move to item 7. No.
Where are you going to take the executive session? Where's it going to fit in?
When we get to that part of the agenda. I just explained it, Don. We're going to take a quick thing to... We're going to have the port meeting to take up new business in regards to the saltwater issue and the river issue. We'll recess, go to the council meeting, take care of new business in regards to the saltwater issue and requests that we're going to make, and that'll come when we get there. Then we'll recess and go back to the port meeting, and we'll be back on the agenda, I think. Yes. You're welcome.
A resolution urging the United States Army Corps of Engineers to immediately close and/or place control structures on major crevices upriver from the Venice Jump, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I move to put this item on the agenda. Ask for unanimous second. Any objections? No objections? Yeah, that's what this is. This is to add to the agenda. Machine is open. And the motion passes unanimously. Please read the resolution again. This will be to take up, to suspend the rules in order for us to vote.
A resolution urging the United States Army Corps of Engineers to immediately close and/or place control structures on major crevices upriver from the Venice Jump and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll so move. Ask for unanimous second. Any objections? Machine is open. The motion passes unanimously. Now I would like to move to actually bring up the item for discussion.
A resolution urging the United States Army Corps of Engineers to immediately close and/or place control structures on major crevices upriver from the Venice Jump and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll move and ask for a unanimous second. Any objections? There being none, machine is open. And the motion passes unanimously. Briefly, before I turn the microphone over to Commissioner Jurisic, and I have to commend Commissioner Jurisic. He and those of us at the council table, but particularly Commissioner Jurisic, has spent an inordinate amount of time addressing some of the issues that have impacted Plaquemines Parish, not only recently, but have been impacting us and will continue to impact us. Being this is the port meeting, the companion resolution that will be taken up at the council meeting particularly addresses the issues with river flow and salt water. But as a port, it was also decided that we need to make a statement as to the impact that the openings along the Mississippi River have had with navigation, because navigation affects us in Plaquemines, but it also affects all commerce up and down the Mississippi River. And the impact is negative. So with that, Commissioner Jurisic, I would like to pass the microphone over to you to take up your part of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this resolution actually does is asking the Corps of Engineers to take up, you know, him?
You're on.
To take action on closing
I thought he put them on.
3 of the major crevasses we have on the east bank of the river. One of those, Mardi Gras Pass, Neptune Pass, and Fort St. Philip. 35% of our river's escaping before it even hits the historic Venice Jump, where it normally would start entering the Gulf. There's roughly 25 of these crevasses and fractures along the east bank of the river between Mardi Gras Pass and the Venice Jump. The 3 major ones we're asking the Corps needs to step up, because as we're losing river flow, what's happening is this water's getting out the river much further north way too fast. We have to slow that down so we can keep our river flowing from north to south, because that north to south flow will not only help, to keep the salt water out, but with the port here, we also have the navigation issue. They're having to build an underwater sill for the second time now, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. And the underwater sill they're construction right now is definitely going to inhibit navigation, because we're turning the river into one-way traffic at that sill. Not only that, we do know that these crevasses and these I'll call them fractures and passes, also cause shoaling of the river in certain spots. Not to mention, if the river does come back up, which we hope it does, that it becomes a navigation hazard, because it starts to put the ships, start to suck the ships out the main channel. So it's for these reasons, and that we need the Corps to act swiftly on this. I personally, and the rest of us do know, I don't think this is going to be something that happens every so often. This could be an annual event. With the deepening of the river, the Corps admits that the deepening of the river is going to allow salt water and navigation hazards to basically be a problem in the future. So when you look at the Corps and the other agencies spending hundreds of millions of dollars to do this, if they have to do this annually, it's a waste. Take these hundreds of millions of dollars we're asking the Corps and fix the problem. Fix these crevasses, close them off. And this basically is what this resolution is asking from the port. We're going to go with the navigational side of things. When we get to the council and the government, we'll go with the saltwater intrusion side of things. So with that being said, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Jurisic. Of course, we're going to allow for public comment, but before we do, I would like to ask our Executive Director if you would like to expand on any of the comments in regards to navigation.
Well, I think first and foremost, the port fully supports this resolution. We're kind of the tip of the spear when it comes to the Mississippi River meeting the Gulf of Mexico and limiting one-way traffic at the area just mentioned is going to be problematic for the commerce moving through the river and through the ports district. So we fully support this resolution.
Thank you, sir. At this point, I will open for public comment to stay in line with our protocol. Any public comment, please come to the microphone, state your name, and make your comment. You'll have 5 minutes.
I'd like to pass these out to the commissioners if possible. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. How y'all doing today? You're looking good up here. So good day to have a port meeting. My name is Bobby Thomas. I'm the Executive Director of the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry, PABI. PABI is in full support of the Council resolution requesting immediate action from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to close or place control structures at Mardi Gras Pass, Neptune Pass, and the Fort St. Philip breaches, or crevasses, or whatever other ones Commissioner Jurisic referred to before. Over the last decade, these breaches have been the cause of repeated emergencies to our parish, including the current threat to the region's drinking water supply caused by the low levels of the Mississippi River. Predictions are that patterns causing the current problems will reoccur in future years. Closing or controlling the breaches will channel more water and measures should be considered part of a long-term solution with work beginning immediately. Again, PABI applauds the Council's effort in getting in front of this issue by urging the Corps of Engineers to rethink their approach to manage the lower Mississippi River, which is critical to the local economy, the state economy, and the well-being of the entire nation. So thank you very much for doing this, and we look forward to this resolution being adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public?
Mr. Chairman, Donald Valle. What scientific or engineering data have we developed already before this resolution? Mitch, I guess I could direct it to you.
Tulane University just completed a study, and they confirmed everything we're talking about. And, we have that. I have those reports. I'll be glad to hand you one.
The only reason I ask is that we do so many things without layover, public comments, and sufficient time without data. And we've gotten ourselves in problems in the past. I don't say what you're doing is wrong by any means, and I fully support you in closing those devices. But is it going to work? And where does the Corps stand on all this?
The Corps is realizing that they have an issue. And I know I'm answering your questions. I don't know if that's fine. But what I'll do is I can also tell you from personal experience, living on the water. I know you've been on the river and all that stuff, but we know and you know that this is a problem. Not only is it letting water out the river, at this point it's letting water in the river. So, because it's got a reverse flow. Now, I didn't mention before that we are going to go to St. Bernard, Port of New Orleans, and Jefferson parishes. We're going to get them to try to pass this, similar resolution as well, so that we can get all them on board, because this is going to affect everybody. And this is a way we see to fix the problem. And the two-lane study does show that. And like I said, after this, I'll hand you a report.
I don't disagree with you. This isn't the only one. It takes it all the way up to Baton Rouge. It's what you need to do with this thing. But is it going to work? Are we going to spend more money chasing rabbits? We don't have any engineers on our council. We don't have really any scientific people, nor do we have it on our staff. Have we consulted with other than the university on this?
I'll answer that. Resolution is urging the Corps of Engineers to do their job. It doesn't say we're going to take part in any studies, spend any money on consultants or engineering. It simply asks the Corps of Engineers to look at this, and we've stated why. That's the text.
It's only a resolution at this point to study.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I've studied that area for 55 years hunting it. Neptune Pass, when I started hunting there, was no bigger. The pond I hunted in was smaller than this room. Now I could put Plaquemines Parish in that room. That's the study I did. I could see it disappearing. And if the Corps wants to do a study, give me an engineer and let them engineer how much mud was there before, and I'll show them where they put it, because it's only a couple hundred yards further back. They just moved land. They didn't build no new land.
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Val, any other public comment before I move to the council table?
Yes, Warren Lawrence, 120 Timber Canal Lane, Maple Grove. One thing in the resolution, and I understand it's great, I support it 100%. The question I bring up is, we're looking forward to a diversion coming in. Plug these up, and your diversion is going to do more than the 3 that you're plugging up. I think the Corps ought to go back and look at the scientific data on what that diversion is going to do to the flow of the river that is diverted into that diversion, and what it's going to have to both the shipping and everything else. I don't say they endorsed it, but they approved the diversion. I don't know if they looked at it from this aspect on what would it cause damages to the shipping and everything in the river. Just a comment I had.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
And I would like to just comment that right now we're going to concentrate on navigation, saltwater intrusion, and when the time comes to take up that issue, we'll do that down the line. Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence, for that comment.
Anyone else from the audience? Move to the council. Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you. Mitch, again, I called you the other day and told you I was excited about this. And I hear Mr. Lawrence and other people talking about scientific study. Well, we know the time that we live in, you can pay for science to tell you anything we want. But as Commissioner Harbaugh said, we have people who've been in these waters all their lives. What you're doing here today, a lot of fishermen in their grave hoping that this would happen. This has been going on for 10 decades. And for your experience as a fisherman, and I know you're not just talking from your own experience, there's so many fishermen who are the scientists. Who are the scientists who know what this is? And I get scared whenever we talk about scientific study, because you talk about somebody else making money for something you already know. So again, Mitch, I am so proud of this resolution. I know so many fishermen, friends of mine who are dead before they died. The very thing that you're talking about now, I think it's a perfect time. Because while the world is watching what's happening, this is a perfect time. So to me, this is the divine resolution. And I just want to tell you, I'm 100% with it without any buts.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Champagne.
Yeah, the answer to question that Mr. Valle had. It's no secret here. It's in the Times-Picayune this on Monday that an article by Mr. Cecil Swallow, a retired Corps of Engineers engineer, who warned that in 1990 that dredging the river to 55 feet would cause the issues we're having now with saltwater intrusion. It's public record. He said the report was written by him and 2 other Corps of Engineers employees. And I'll quote what he said: had the river not been dredged to 55 feet in recent years, the salt water likely would have halted near Alliance, 20 miles south of the river. That's just with the 55 foot of dredging, not including what Councilman Jurisic and Councilman Kognovich have brought to light as well. So we have compounding issues here that the Corps was fully aware of in the 1990s. So I think that this shows a mismanagement of the river on their part, and it's a responsibility they've taken on. So again, I applaud your efforts, Commissioner Jurisic, and we need to hold the Corps accountable to do their job. I yield.
Thank you, sir. Before we vote, I just want to make it clear that, and I may be a little premature, but you have a united group up here. United not only in ourselves, but united into the best interests of what's happening in Plaquemines Parish. The control of fixing the problem, however, is not in our hands. And it's very complex, as Mr. Valle said, studies, as Commissioner Edwards said, studies so other people can make money. We know what's happening. We know what's happening. We've seen the impact. But there's a process that we have to go through. Unfortunately, throughout history, we've seen so many public works projects that millions of dollars was spent to complete, that the same agencies who promoted and built that project had to go back and fix the problems that that project created, or even dismantle the project. That's the importance of a thorough analysis, of looking at all of the factors. We're trying to bring that to everyone's attention, and we'll just have to see where it goes. And with that, the machine is open. It's not offered and seconded.
Be unanimous second.
That's okay. Yeah, it was offered in a unanimous second. Machine is open. And the resolution is approved 9-0. We have copies. Now that it's approved, we have copies. A few copies we'll put out in front for anyone in the public who would like to have it. With that, I will make a motion to recess this meeting so we can move to the council meeting and take up similar legislation. So, seconded by Commissioner Schultz. Machine is open for recess. Recess only. And at 3:25, the port goes into recess. I'd like to reconvene the meeting of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District. And don't everyone get excited.
Musical chair.
We'll go to the next item on the agenda, please.
Executive session pursuant to LRS 421782 for the purpose of receiving attorney-client privileged information regarding litigation cited as Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District versus State of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development and Plenary Infrastructure Bell Chase LLC. Attorney Danny Garrett.
I'll offer.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Schultz.
I'm objecting to the executive session.
Thank you. Duly noted.
The matter you intend to bring up is not of executive session nature, and maybe Mr. Garrett could convene on that.
Mr. Valle, I'll take up your request later after we have consultation with our legal counsel. Machine is open for executive session. And the move to move into executive session is unanimously approved. Get it? Ready? At 3:59, we've come out of executive session, taking no final or binding action, and since this is ongoing litigation, there'll be no further comment. Next item, please.
3, status report by the Executive Port Director.
Good afternoon. We want to thank the public for participating in the recent town hall meeting, and then we want to give a special thanks to the council for continuing to support our critical port expansion efforts. I'd like to provide a quote by a Roman philosopher, Seneca. It is a rough road that leads to heights of greatness. And I'd like to compare that quote to the high usage that we're seeing on Highway 23 today. I mean, it seems like a rough road, and we have one of our council members to share with us that, you know, one man sees traffic, another man sees progress, and I think with the growth that we're experiencing in the port right now, which is supporting the parish, you know, we request patience from both the council and from the public because we are striving to reach those new heights. While we have a list of priorities demanding our daily attention, we also have a longer list of items that distract us from reaching our goals and objectives. So we have worked diligently over the last couple of weeks, focusing on executing our priorities and actually deflecting some of the distractions that we've encountered. Our priorities include a strong emphasis on growth related to activities such as preparing our 24 budget, addressing issues with the Point Lahash ferry landing, monitoring the progress of our market analysis, advancing the 11-mile rail extension, and expanding our role as a landlord port. You know, during this time we also, you know, dedicated our time to nurturing the customer relationships that are crucial to propelling us to the next level and ensuring that our performance aligns with our core values. Our dedication to the port Lahash ferry landing involved conducting a town hall meeting a couple of weeks ago. It also included a meeting with the Secretary of DOTD, and we are exploring innovative ways of expediting the process of getting the Point Lahash ferry landing back in commission. Our commitment is unwavering as we strive to become a larger landlord port, overcoming obstacles that may come our way. The growth expansion of this port serves as a vital engine driving tax revenues that support the growth of the parish. And remember, everything may appear to be impossible until it is accomplished. Therefore, you know, we forge ahead with determination and resolve. With that, I pass the mic to our Deputy Director, Ms. Foss.
Good afternoon. In regards to the piano key parcels, today we'll be securing the last remaining parcels. We're prepared to vote on 3 today, and 1 will be deferred as we await some additional information regarding the appraisals. Ms. Angelina Vicknair is not here today, our Director of Communications, so I will be speaking on her behalf. We recently hosted a town hall meeting in District 1 to discuss the Point Lahash ferry ramp status. We will host another town hall in District 7 on Monday, October the 30th at the Port Sulphur YMCA at 6 p.m. You can find more details on our Facebook page. And now I'm going to direct this to Jalen Brown, our Director of Security and Vessels.
Good afternoon. I want to start my comments off regarding the fire that happened in Baptiste Colette in Venice last night. I definitely want to shine a spotlight on our team members that coordinated very effectively last night. That's our Marine Inspectors David Silv and Billy Conrad, our Rescue Captains Raylan Hoyer and Gavin Hamilton, and our Rescue Boat Engineers Brendan Hoyer and Curtis Silv. The port success and our environmental stewardship affects other port region success. So their diligence with their jobs and their duty is greatly appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on, the Ferry app is now fully operational. You're able to download it in your app store and visit our website for the how-to use guide. Next on my comments is the ferry boat. There's no new status to update. However, we did have a great meeting this past Monday with LODOTD's secretary, and the meeting was well received regarding the ferry boat and the status of getting the new ferry landings at Point LaHash replaced. 4 years is way too long, and we urgently need it done now, faster, sooner. So we introduced some solutions, and we're moving forward. A letter is drafted, and we should have that out by this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. Also, in the same thread, Infinity has started the temporary repairs on the West Point LaHash and East Point LaHash landings. They were down there this week doing surveying, and we have another meeting in the morning with DOTD to make sure we have all the requirements nailed out and hammered. Moving on, our construction meetings are going as planned. Our last meeting, we were able to connect a few engineers and construction firms, so their projects are intersecting, and that's basically what this meeting's for those guys to know, hey, my project intersects with yours, and outside of that construction meeting, they're able to set off their own meetings to say, hey, how can we work together? Moving on, for the Alliance Booster Station, we have Lemoyne's contract in hand, and you'll be hearing updates from us very soon with the start date. And then lastly, our grant writing team and the port, we're diligently looking at grant opportunities out there when we talk about the water treatment plant that the president mentioned earlier. We have several meetings that we already attended, and we have several meetings that's coming up, along with some possible trips that's planned to see the resources, the other organizations that's offering solutions to provide this 15 million gallons a day. And then lastly, to finish off my comments, we're in the process of visualizing how the port's environmental area looks, the port complex look. This will allow us to forecast shoaling, sedimentation, safety, security, river levels, everything in line with the breakdown, deterioration of the East Bank on the further end. This concludes my comments. Pass it over to Ms. Nielsen.
Good afternoon. From Administration and Human Resources, to leverage technology in our tariff billing department, the port has successfully implemented the Mississippi River Traffic Information System, Mr. TIS. This advanced system provides real-time maritime information and vessel tracking along the Mississippi River, enhancing our port operations and situational awarenesses. Also, in our pursuit of technovation, we're actively exploring opportunities to move into the 21st century while minimizing the paper chase. This includes enhancing our workforce payroll management by adopting more efficient methods of tracking time and attendance. Within our HR department, we've expanded our efforts to find qualified ferry captains holding a 1,600-ton license by partnering with a staffing agency, adding another valuable resource to our recruitment efforts. And on the financial front, our finance department is in the final stages of preparing the 2024 proposed operating budgets. They will be ready for distribution to our board at the next meeting on the 26th. In addition, during the meeting on the 26th, under the category of bids and advertisements, we will be announcing the lowest bidder for the port's diesel fuel as part of our annual request for proposals process. That concludes my report, subject to any questions.
So in conclusion, I would like to again thank Commissioner Jursich for the resolution, for the supporting navigation issues within the Ports District. I think we talked a lot about growth in that opening paragraph here. It's important to understand that within the next 5 years, Plaquemines Port is going to introduce somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500 additional ships annually to our district, and that's just from our growth. And you know, when we look at where the congestion will take place, it's going to be in around that 50-mile range where vessels will start to back up, and that's just critical port space, you know, for us. And so this resolution that was introduced today is critical. It's vital to our success and our continued growth. So again, we really want to thank you, Commissioner Jurcich, you know, for really thinking ahead on behalf of the port. Lastly, I would just like to reiterate Mr. Brown's comments about our fireboats. Oftentimes those boats are sitting, you know, and people might wonder, well, you know, what do they do? But those guys are always up and down the river, and they're always ready to respond. And I will tell you, I am extremely proud of their professionalism that they displayed last night. You know, look forward to sitting down and going over their after-action report. With that, we thank you, and we're open to any comments.
Thank you, sir. At this time, according to our policy, we will open for public comment, but just keep in mind this is not a question-answer session. We do appreciate public comments, and we do take them seriously. So with that, is there any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, members, as you can appreciate, actions yesterday that took place in Baton Rouge at 19th Circuit District, they found a finding that literally threw our lawsuit against plenary TODD out the window. It's my understanding they found that prescription had taken place as a 1 year as opposed to 5 year, and the lawsuit was dismissed. And if I'm incorrect with those statements, Mr. Garrett, you can probably respond. It was disheartening because most of y'all probably ran for your office based upon your commitment to this parish and the citizens here, that you would support filing suit against the state and the bridge and no tolls. And I believe every one of y'all, maybe with the exception of Mr. Connick, who had already done it. This was a layover from the previous administration, the previous council. And most of y'all held that oath again, if you want to call it an oath, probably more of a commitment.
Mr. Valley.
Yes, sir.
There was no mention of that in the executive director's report, and so
it was on the agenda.
Public comment period and comments that we appreciate really need to be relative to his report. As I said earlier, with ongoing litigation, we really are not going to comment on anything.
I'm not asking for your comments, sir.
All right, sir.
I'm making a statement, and it was on the agenda today. We missed it by prescription, and supposedly we didn't file litigation timely. And it goes back to a lot of things that goes on in the parish. We, contrary to Mr. Champagne's statement that things take a long time in the parish, well, they don't have to. And by taking a long time, we procrastinate and let things go too long. We need to move a little quicker. And I commend Mr. Jurish on what you brought forth today to attempt to force the court to do what's right. And I think you point on there. And the more things we do like that and take care of business timely, my question, maybe it's a question, but I don't expect a response. Somewhere along the line, we have a right to appeal that litigation, that decision that was made yesterday. But I expect there's probably a time period, again, a prescription, as it was on the lawsuit that we lost yesterday. So I caution you all, look at the timeline. Let's make sure we file it. If you're going to file it, it's a decision you all have to make. I'd recommend to you all to file an appeal and still honor your commitments that you all made to the people out there. Otherwise, we can be forced to live with this bridge forever. This is our last shot, if you decide to do that. That's all I want.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
Clarence Brock, 156 Enos Campbell Land, Phoenix, Louisiana. I remember when, right after Katrina, I was living in Devant, and they had like 2 ships that was in that area. And those ships was just dropping anchors. People was beating on metal to metal, just like every evening, every night. And on doing this winter time when it got foggy, those fog horns was, constantly blasting. Now we're talking about 52 weeks, 12 months, and we may have like 500 ships. At first I heard 150 ships. Now like 500 ships a year. That's a lot of noise for the locals on that side. Is any kind of way they could slow down some of the noise that's going to be coming from all the ships to the local people? That's the port job.
Mr. Brock, would I recommend that you and Director Tillotson get together? We have addressed that.
Okay.
In other circumstances, not particularly you, but I think they're together. I think they're probably the same. If you get with him, he'll tell you what steps we've taken and what steps we plan on taking in the future. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Any other public comment? Mr. Jersich.
Mr. Brock, I don't know about you, but boy, when them foghorns start blowing at night, I sleep like a baby because I grew up on boats, and that kind of noise just brings me back to my youth. That's all I had to say.
You don't have to work when them foghorns are going. Next item.
4, bids and advertisements. There are none. 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
We have the following under Commissioner Gooey: an ordinance authorizing and directing the Port Executive Director, Charles D. Tillotson, to enter into an agreement with the Plaquemines Parish government for the transfer of $1 million from the courthouse bond funds identified previously by the Plaquemines Parish government for replacement, repair of the ferry ramp and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance adopting the original capital improvement budget for the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District for a period of 5 years beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2028, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance adopting the original operating budget of revenues and expenditures for the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2024, January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance establishing a policy of budgetary control for the operating budget of expenditures for the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution establishing the date, time, and place of public hearings on the proposed 2024 operating budget and capital improvement budget as submitted by the Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to authorize the Council Secretary to place the necessary public notices in the Plaquemines Gazette and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution to cancel the November 23rd, 2023 and the December 28th, 2023 regularly scheduled port meetings due to the Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holiday and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The following two are under Commissioner Newsom: a resolution electing the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Vice Chairperson for 2024 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And also under Commissioner Newsom, a resolution electing the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District Chairperson for 2024 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. There's all the intros.
Thank you. And just as a point of information, we are looking at November 14th for the port budget hearings. That's a Tuesday. We're holding the council meetings. They're scheduled Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we have the proposal introduced, but we're planning on plugging in November 14th in the afternoon for the port hearing. So that's just a point of information. It's not absolute, but that's where we're gonna offer that. Okay, next.
6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6A, ordinances and public hearings pursuant to Article 6, Section 601E of the Plaquemines Parish Charter. 6A1, an ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the port's legal counsel file a petition pursuant to the Louisiana Constitution, LARS 1921 et sec, as well as all other applicable laws, and to expropriate via taking that certain land owned by Norman C. Rouse or their successor in title, which property is commonly referred to as Lot 53, totaling 1328 acres and with a legal description of Farm Lot 53, Point Celeste Farms SD Phase 2, 340 feet, front on right descending RW of Highway 23 by 170127 feet by 339.94 feet by 1697.11 feet with the more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer ask for a second.
We do have changes.
Oh, well, do the changes and then I'll ask for a second.
Okay. On line 71, which is under Section 2, the price of $168,000 has been removed, and the new price is $252,000 and no cents. Then again, on line 78, under Section 3, $168,000 was removed and $252,000 was entered.
Thank you. And with those changes, I will offer. Ask for a second. Seconded by Commissioner Champagne. Mr. Tillotson, I'm going to ask for public comment at this point. And then when that's done, you and your staff can proceed accordingly. Okay? Any public comment on item 6A1?
I'm Norman Rouse, Lot 53. I was in the process of trying to get an agreement, PSA, signed with the port. As a couple of y'all know, we started this 2 weeks ago on a Thursday that the PSA needed to be looked at because a lot of unclarity in it and a lot of one-sided to it. I received an invite Friday to have a meeting on 1 o'clock Tuesday. I accepted the meeting. I asked at that time to send me a copy of the PSA agreement that had been revised up to my what we were discussing at that point. I did attend a meeting at 1 o'clock Tuesday. At that time, I had received no updated agreement till I walked in and sat down. And it was thrown in my face. Here you go, read it, agree to it, and you're done with it. I agreed it, went over it with the lawyer. We did some changes on it, and I asked him to email it to me so I could sit down and review it more instead of just a speed read and agree to it. I did that. I put a few comments in it myself. Then I was emailed. That was Tuesday. Wednesday I was out of town. This morning I reviewed it, put some comments to it, sent it to them. The last word I got was it's rejected. So that's basically all I got to say. If you want to expropriate it, I'm trying to work a deal with them. I'm not going with all of this. Some of this in here says that if I sign this PSA and they sign it, I can't sell this PSA to another individual without consent from them, but they could take this PSA and sell it to another individual without consent from me. It's just little old words in there that needs to be corrected before I put a signature to it. And that's all I'm trying to get straightened out. Now, if they don't want to work, y'all expropriate it. I'll take it further from here. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. I think that some of the statements that were made warrant comment.
Yes.
And I would like to turn it over to our legal staff. Yeah.
So that's correct. Nick with Dwyer Cambry and I did meet with Mr. Rouse on Tuesday. The PSA that we provided him was more consolidated and more concise and was a little more of a direct read. We did, which is how he requested it. We did take maybe an hour or two. We made sure that he didn't feel rushed. We asked him to take it home, read it in detail, if he had an attorney as well, to read it further, to give him the proper advice. This morning we received, with Dwyer Cambry, received a copy of the PSA executed by Mr. Rouse, but some of the verbiage specifically said he's signing due to the threat of expropriation. That's what he hand wrote in the PSA. When you write the word threat in any kind of contract to a court, it could appear as though he was under duress, he was forced, he was made to, and that will nullify a contract immediately. So Nick explained that to Mr. Rouse, and so this is where we are today. We brought the original draft with the hope that maybe he would be interested in signing to prevent the expropriation route, but it doesn't appear that that's where we are right now.
Are you finished, Ms. Full?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Rouse, I think you may want to comment.
Yes, sir. First of all, there's no handwriting in here. This is a copy of what I sent them. There is no handwriting in here. What I stated is they're wanting me to sign this as I'm all hunky-dory for selling it and all of that. All I did was put clarifications in here saying that I am signing it under a discord and threat of expropriation, which is what's being done here. If you drop to the paragraph right below it, it says buyer's political subdivision Louisiana authority to exercise its right of expropriation and initiate expropriation proceedings against seller for the acquisition of the property. So now where am I wrong for? It's threat, right? This is their words at the paragraph below this. All I'm doing is stipulating that I'm selling it. I'm agreeing to selling it. There's nothing I can do about it. I fought this for 3 months, and it's like talking to that wall right there. I'm selling it. I'm just trying to come to an agreement on this paperwork. You know, and just like I said down here with what I was just explaining it to you, there's one word, not, N-O-T, that should have been put in here. It's not. It's left out for purposes. All I'm trying to do is get a clean piece of paper that when I sign it, I feel good about it, and I know nobody can drag me down the wrong road. And that's all I got.
Appreciate that, sir.
I'm going to call Nick with Dwyer Cambry
to
make a few comments.
Good afternoon, Nick Dietzen with Dwyer Cambry and Suffern, and Mr. Rouse just mentioned that we want a clean agreement, and that's exactly what we've all gotten together to accomplish. We took the original PSA that's been signed by dozens of other property owners and pared it down to remove some language that just to simplify the contract. And what I got back this morning was included some language that Mr. Rouse injected regarding threats, which basic contract law, that would deem this contract a relative nullity if it were determined that, you know, it was signed under some kind of duress. So for that reason, you know, it's a contract that's entered into amicably by both parties. And so for that reason, I requested that that language be taken out. So the answer is we're close. We're very close to a clean agreement, and I think that can still be worked out.
And I did respond to his email immediately saying if the word threat bothers you, remove it.
Well, Nick, do you have a clean PSA to sign today?
I do.
Mr. Rouse, are you prepared to sign?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if Mr. Rouse and Nick maybe go to a conference room? They can look it over again cleanly, and by the time we perhaps get to the this item's on the agenda for the PSA to be executed as well, so perhaps at that time.
Mr. Rouse, I'm going to ask you, sir, because you're the one really being impacted. Would you like to take a few minutes and go over the document and return back today at this meeting and sign if you're in agreement? Would you like to do that? Would you like to sit with them and go over that today? Would you like to? Okay, good. Well, if it pleases everyone, we'll pass over and we'll come back to it in a little bit. Why don't you get together with them?
I'll show them the conference. Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, Mr. Burris will direct you where you have some privacy, sir. So we will pass over item 6A1 and hopefully we'll come to some settlement later today. And we'll move on to the next item.
6A2 will be deferred. 6A3, an ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tilton, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the port's legal counsel file a petition pursuant to the Louisiana Constitution, LARS 1921 et sec, as well as all other applicable laws, to expropriate via a taking that certain land owned by Celeste D. Ancar or their successor, in title which property is commonly referred to as Lot 7, totaling 4.0 acres, and with a legal description of Lot 7, Point Celeste Farms, Phase 2, 200 feet by 880 feet by 890 feet by 200 feet, with more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gouy, and it has changes.
The changes are on lines 73 through 74 and line 81. We are removing the amount of $102,900 on line 74 through 75. And on line 81 also, we're adding a new figure of $117,600. Those are all the changes.
And at 78, you said that, right? 600. Okay, with that change, I'll offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Commissioner Champagne, if I'm not mistaken. I'll open the floor for public comment at this time. Floor is open to the board. Commissioner Edwards. Are you up?
Oh, no, that's a mistake.
Okay. Commissioner Jurist, you up?
Yeah, I'd like to see if Ms. Ankar. Just wanted to ask if, are you in agreement with this?
I am not.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
I am not. The amount really hasn't changed from the moment that they stated they would provide the 20% of good faith. There's never been a negotiation or price change discussion since that moment. Not once was I ever asked what would be considered or a fair amount or what I even felt was a fair assessment of the property. I mean, I've been faced with all these challenges with this in every way possible. I can't even get a proper and accurate appraisal on the property. Also, on top of that, I don't really understand how a judge or an appraiser can completely deem our property solely residential when it will not be residential the minute the port owns it. On top of it, the largest chemical plant a mile away from my property. I can't imagine any citizen building a residence that close to Cancer Valley area. No, there's not been any negotiations whatsoever. I mean, it just seems like very political and unethical strings continue to be pulled with this backing us into a corner. Three appraisals, I keep being told 3 appraisals were done. I've yet to see 2 of them. I've only seen one, the very last one, and that's it. I really just, I just don't know what else to do. I mean, it's hard to understand why tall grass, why it was assessed for what it was, and my acreage doesn't even come near or close to the amount of appraisal value, and I'm on the river as well. So, I don't know. It's just really frustrating at this point. You know, it's like we're backed into the corner, we're contesting the monster in the room. It easily feels very hopeless. And, you know, the fact that we purchased our property 23 years ago and the amount we paid for our property 23 years ago is pretty irrelevant at this point, when that's the most sound and lucrative investment any person can buy, but yet the port is deeming the cost and appraisal value of my property. I don't feel like a true appraisal has been conducted, and that's all I was truly seeking for, was an accurate value assessment. If it's worth only $10,000 more, so be it. We'll sign the PSA. But I don't even feel like that's a true value been assessed for our property at this time. And the fact that I had to go through 32 appraisers in the last 2 months and only found one to even take on the job, and then now at this point he's backing out. So 6 weeks in, I finally find an appraiser. So what's really going on when people can't even conduct their jobs appropriately because we're dealing with this? Just, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Foles, I think that some of the statements by Ms. Ann Carr warrant a response.
Yes.
And I appreciate if you could respond truthfully and appropriately to those accusations, please.
Yes, sir. Ms. Ann Carr purchased this property, that is correct, in 1998 for $36,000. After 3 appraisals, the first appraisal was $65,000, second was $98,000, the third one was $98,000. Plus our 20%, the sale price is now $117,600. That's a 327% increase from the original purchase price. That's just the facts. I just want to make sure that was known. These are all reputable appraisal companies. They're not port paid, you know, employees, if you will. They're all businesses, and these people have been doing this for a very, very long time. And so we can only go by their expertise and their experience. What the port feels is fair is irrelevant and illegal. We have to go by what the appraisers say. So however the council decides today, the courts, we can utilize that process for Ms. Ann Carr and her family to utilize them. What are her resources? That could be the time, to say, I disagree and this is why. But this has been going on for quite some time, and it's unfortunate to hear that this fourth appraiser has backed out, because that's really why we were hoping to get to this place where we'd have another appraisal, but it doesn't appear that that's going to happen. So
before I go to the board members.
Yes.
Is there anything in the process with the professionals that you've worked with, anything that you feel has not followed the letter of the law?
No, not at all. And it would be illegal for the port to engage in any relationship with these appraisers that would be deemed very inappropriate professionally. So we want to make sure that that's known as well.
Okay. And do you feel that the appraisers that we used are ones who are reputable, and we have used them in the past for
yes.
appraisal purposes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And,
I'm going to call Jacob to come up, if that's okay with Ladder and Bloom. He has really good relationships with these appraisers. That he knows their work and their history professionally, so he can expand on that a little bit more.
One second, Ms. Ann Carr. Ms. Ann Carr, 1 second. let him finish.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Jacob Chris with Ladder and Bloom. Nice to see you all here today. Per Melissa's comment, these appraisers are all top-notch. There's nothing misleading going on here, and it's a very straightforward appraisal assignment. It's 4 acres of unimproved property, okay? So there's been 3 appraisals that were performed. The increase in the second appraisal is really attributable to the comps being Piano Keys comps, which the port has recommended and gotten approval to add a 20% premium out of recognition of the challenge of this process you see unfolding today. So my professional recommendation to them, as it will be to you, is that these appraisals are all top-notch. Accusations of 31 appraisers. Look, this is a personal matter, and I certainly respect Tori and Mrs. Ankar, and we all do, obviously, but professional assertion here is that, there's no challenges to get any other appraisals, and same with the second to the third. If you were to get a fourth, it would fall in line with what these appraisals previously were because of the nature of the property. There's no improvements. There's no operation there. It's 4 acres of property. It is on the river, and as a result of that, it's the value with the 20% premium is $29,400. So let's not forget that that's far higher than any of these other values, as it should be, acre to acre, because it is on the river. So again, with all due respect of everybody, that's the business case from the real estate perspective.
Okay, well, I know that, and Commissioners, I'll give you the floor in just a minute. I know that the emotional aspect of this is real. It is real, and I, for one, understand that. I also understand that we have gone through the legal process as provided statutory. It is statutory, and I also understand that there may, and I think it's important that we express this, that if the expropriation goes through, there are still options on the table for the landowner. And if we could, in just a few words, kind of give us a briefing on that.
Yes, that's correct. So once a petition to expropriate is filed, the defendant, if you will, which would be the property owner, is allotted time, 15, it might even be 20 days, now the law may have changed a little bit, to respond. Everyone is legally given the right to respond to any suit that's filed against them. So that would be the time to say, I disagree because of A, B, and C. At that time, what a judge will do is they will have a hearing. When you have someone answer, they will set a hearing date. So this is not the end of Ms. Ankar's legal rights. She still has the option to exercise her rights in court.
Thank you. And that's very important to me personally, that there are options to the landowner.
That's correct.
And by a third party, a judge,
yes,
to look at the legality of what was done, how it was done, and make that determination.
That is correct.
So today, if we determine that we approve the expropriation, that we still can be overridden at a future, and whatever happens there happens there.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, did you have any? Okay, and I will, if you do decide to make another comment, please just raise your hand, let me know. Commissioner Konovich?
Yeah, I got a problem with this process, because I put myself in their own spot. You come to take my property, we're going to have a lot more than just words across the table. And to keep saying, oh, they only bought it for this amount of money, I don't care if somebody gave it to them. It's their property. They could get what they want for it. Because I know most of y'all wasn't here when they did it. Tall Grass first sold for $9 million. Then it went to $25 million when somebody else wanted it. Then it was for sale again, and the port went shopping until they got it to $30.5 million. And then they went shopped again when CPRA bought it for $36 million. That way it put us out of the running to buy it, because the port had the first right of refusal to buy the property. So if it's the appraisal so high, we can't afford it. So who gets it? CPRA. And that was all the plan to start with. So we could go shopping for appraisals to get higher prices for certain things. But when it's somebody's life or their property, we're going to do what we want to do.
Commissioner LaFrance.
Yes, Ms. Ankar, did the appraiser give you a reason why he backed out? Please at the mic.
He has not officially backed out of the situation. He's stating that the deed restrictions placed on the property is what dilemmas we're running into. Also, the fact that all the properties sold for comparables are only properties that have been taken over by the port. So with it being deed restricted as residential solely, it's hard to come up with a accurate value. And he's kind of been dragging me on now for almost 6 weeks.
Thank you.
And I did contact 32 appraisers, and no one would take the job or return my phone call. And he's the first one that did, and now 6 weeks out, I'm still in the same situation. I mean, how everything is fair and the appraisers are professional, but yet why can't I find an appraiser to appraise the land for me? Scientists can be bought, so can appraisers.
Are you?
Commissioner Champagne.
Yeah, I know my colleague mentioned tall grass and CPRA. That's a whole different set of circumstances. I did not agree with that, nor partake in that. But that's not where we are. I think, working with the port, I've seen them go the extra mile and try to get appraisers and get multiple appraisals, offering the landowners the ability to get their own appraiser and in due time. This has been going on since I've been in this seat. It's been going on since January. This isn't anything new. So the allegation that this whole process is being rushed, I think, is a bit disingenuous. Shopping for appraisals, I don't think that's true. We put it in the hands of professionals and said, go find us some. And quite frankly, in the meetings I've been to, we've been looking to find the best appraisals for the landowners. And we've all said at our meetings, we're going with the highest one because the people deserve it. So to imply that we're doing anything to not take care of our folks is not right. I know that this property was for sale for less than $87,000 was the asking price within about a year and a half ago. And now we're offering $117,600. I think it meets the intent that Mr. Ankar had for this to be investment property. I know you'd mentioned that early, and truly that we want to take care of it, and I see it as a sound investment. And you yourself said, who wants to build something in Cancer Alley? Well, from my point of view, I mean, this is a substantial amount of money, and get you out of Cancer Alley, maybe allows you to invest in a nice piece of property somewhere else. We're truly trying to do the right thing. So I get it, and if the appraisals came in higher, my goodness, we've all said we are going to go by the appraised value. We have a requirement. We have to follow the law, and the law states that we have to go with the appraisals. And we've challenged the landowners to find some, and to say that you've called 31, you may have, but there's other ones out there that you can call. I mean, they're out there. I know that these three, they're pretty close in line, and I doubt you're going to find one that's far out of line because they have a responsibility to do the right thing and meet the industry standard. You're not going to find these wild fluctuations. I really think that we're sound in what we're doing here. Again, I just want to make the point is we've all discussed this. We're going to go with the highest appraisal, offer 20%, which is the most we can do by law. We're trying to do the right thing. And someone mentioned in one of the previous meetings that, hey, you're doing this and there's no public purpose. There is public purpose here. We're trying to move the parish forward and do good things for this parish. It's not anything for any of us up here or for the port. So there's an opportunity for us to get this parish moving again in terms of opportunity for our population. Let's face it, the oil and gas industry is left. This is all we got. And we're doing this because we're trying to advance this parish and offer opportunities, and not at the expense of somebody else. My goodness, we're trying to get you the top dollar for your property. So all I want to say is that our intent is pure. We're trying to do the right thing, and the allegations of the port trying to do something nefarious are just not realistic. I yield.
Commissioner Shields.
Yes, Ms. Sankar. I agree with you and Commissioner Kognovich that what you bought it for in the past really has no bearing on this, because time value of money changes also. I mean, if you had that 30 whatever thousand and invested it, it will be worth a lot more. So that has nothing to do with it. I'm looking at the different appraisals. Two of them are exactly the same, and the third one is about $30,000 less than the other two. So I also ran the numbers comparing, since you have Riverside versus Landside, your appraisals is about $10,000 more an acre based on that. So at a certain point, I'm not appraisal. I have no clue how to value land or anything, so I have to trust the appraisals. We have to follow the law in how much we can give you based on the current law and appraisals. We can't just go throwing around money because we want to, but like Commissioner Champagne said, we're giving you the max 20%. I wish we could give more, but that's by law what we're restricted to. I'm not going to get into the other appraisals. I don't know who all you contacted and all that, but based on the professional recommendations of the other appraisals and running the numbers and all that, that's kind of where I stand. But like I said, I agree with you. What you bought it for in the past has no bearing on this, but what the current appraisal is what really matters and what the current law says. So with that, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. Before I open the machine for a vote, if there's any comfort that comes out of this for me is knowing that should this pass, that the Ankar family will have a judicial option to go before a judge and really have that third party look at the evidence. And I think that's the best we can do. It's unfortunate that we're going through this, but this is the real world. This is reality, and we're having to do this. And the consequences will be what they are. So I think that there's a route for the Ankar family, and I'm happy for that. Mr. Edwards, you on?
Yes. I think everyone knew my position on this. I've talked at length on it, and I don't want to go into it again. And I'm not in a position to understand how the Ankar feel. I can't even say how they feel on this. My whole position is this, that when we decided to bring the port in, we have to begin to look at the footprint and let people know what's happening. When people talk about coming to the East Bank, I said, if they do, they got to stay within the footprint. I just think that the past administration, whoever came up with putting LNG into this area, didn't take consideration that people's lives and houses and state. I don't think there's any word that we could say to bring comfort to the Ankar family. I wouldn't even try to begin to understand how you feel, but I just hope going forward, we as the governing body, when we begin to talk about public purpose, that we understand when there's other people's houses involved in it, that we're doing it. Let us learn from this mistake. This is a learning lesson, and I hope we begin to learn the lesson in this much more than saying we know how you feel. I don't know how you feel. I can't imagine how you feel, but I just hope as a governing body, we begin to use this as a learning for future engagement that we get involved in.
Thank you, sir. With that, I will open the machine for a vote. And the motion is approved. Districts 1, 7, 8, and 9 voted no. Districts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 voted yes. Next item.
4 will be withdrawn. 6A5, an ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tilton, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the port's legal counsel file a petition pursuant to Louisiana Constitution, LA RS 1921 et sec, as well as all other applicable laws, and to expropriate via taking that certain land owned by Tuan Nguyen or their successor in title, which property is commonly referred to as lots 55, 56, totaling 29.39 acres, and with a legal description of Lot 55, Point Celeste Farms SD Phase 2, 354 feet, front on Highway 23 by 1710.11 feet by 353.94 feet by 1705.78 feet, and Lot 56, Point Celeste Farms Phase 2, 395 feet, front on Highway 23 by 1714.94 feet by 1710.11 feet by 394.93 feet, with the more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, Commissioner Gooey.
I will, there's no changes. I will offer and ask for a second. Seconded by Commissioner Champagne. As what we did previously, I will allow for public comment, and follow that by comment from the administration. Yes, sir. Come on to the podium, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Simone. I'm the attorney for Mr. Nguyen. First, I'd like to reference that there's just a lot of questions that are unanswered for this property. What is the public purpose? What is the authority for the expropriation? I asked at the end of September to Ms. Foles to answer those questions, specifically what's going to be built on this property. You know, I understand that there's a connection to an LNG plant, but are we talking about a parking lot? Are we talking about the gas facility? What exactly is it? We need to know that to be able to understand whether or not there actually is the authority to expropriate, and that'll meet the public purpose test. We also asked, who's going to operate this? Is the port going to operate whatever facility is on there, or is it going to be sold to a third party to operate private? That's a big legal issue you need to talk about to find out if the authority to expropriate actually exists here. I mean, those questions I think are paramount, and I caution the council before voting on this that if it's found that the authority isn't there, then there's a different set of legal hurdles that we need to go through to make him whole for possibly an expropriation that should not have been filed. Those answers, I think, should be discussed before a vote on that to really protect all parties involved. Now, there's always that we can argue about this in court one day. It's 21 days from the date of filing. It's a quick process. We're hoping to have more time and settle this amicably. One other issue, we keep talking about that there's appraisals and everything's fair. I don't think these appraisals pass muster, in my opinion. Louisiana Supreme Court talks about what appraisals to use or comps to use when we're talking about expropriation process. And one thing that's been cautioned over and over again is not using comps for the same project because they're not helpful. There may be other factors involved. Some duress over an expropriation threat could have caused prices to go down, maybe to go up. They're not relevant to be used. The court's thrown those out. Each one of the comps I've seen use parts for the same process, the same project. The comps aren't good. The appraiser might not know that because the appraiser doesn't do this type of legal work for a living. But the fact remains, whether they know it or not, the comps aren't there in here. We need to go find actual real comps to sell and to have a fair price. Now, I'm also in the process of looking for an appraiser. I haven't contacted as many as Ms. Sankor. I've called a few people I've worked with in the past. I have been found that a lot of appraisers are conflicted out because the port apparently does a lot of work with appraisers. So I think also we should need more time to do this. You know, there is the court process in the end, but who's going to pay for all the cost, my cost, that Mr. Nguyen's going to have to pay because we rushed this a little bit quicker than we should have. So I guess the point I'm making here is that there are real legal issues that need to be discussed, have not been answered. And also, what's the harm in waiting 30, 60 days to figure this out? That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Foles, I learned a long time ago, do not debate an attorney, even though I married one. And I'm learning more and more because of that relationship to not debate an attorney. Mr. Simone made some comments, and I would like you to respond on behalf of the port, please.
Yes. So, Mr. Simone, I'd like to respond in this method. So, your question about the public purpose. We are not obligated to provide you with that public purpose in this setting. We are bound by confidentiality agreements, NDAs. However, the port is very strategic. We have a great law firm as well. So when we are prepared to file this expropriation, we will make sure that the public purpose is written very clearly for the court, because we do understand that a public purpose is required and necessary legally. But at this time, in this space, in this venue, this is not the space to do it. The court, the legal proceedings, that is the venue to present the public purpose. So when the expropriation is filed, that is your space to answer and argue whether the public purpose is sufficient. So that is the recommendation that I'm going to provide to the port commissioners to explore your rights through the court system. Now is not the space for that. And we've been speaking with Mr. Wynn for months. And actually Mr. Wynn has the signed PSA. And I don't know if he expressed that. So the PSA is signed. However, we wanted to give him more time to, okay, we're going to do another appraisal, which I'm glad we did because the price did go up based on the comps. So we've been more than accommodating to Mr. Wynn, and it's unfortunate that we've gotten to this space, but now it's time to take it to that next legal level. And I think the courts are going to be the best space to explore your legal concerns.
So then I take it, with all due respect to Mr. Wynn and Mr. Simone, that you feel, as you did previously, that we have exhausted every avenue.
Yes.
We have followed the statutes as written.
That is correct.
That the Dwyer firm has also been involved, who has some expertise in this area.
Yes.
And you're comfortable that the port has done everything appropriate in this issue?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. Wait, I didn't mean to close public comment, but go ahead.
Just one quick thing is that I understand, and we're on the record here, that my questions will remain unanswered. And as we're negotiating, the response that I'm getting from the port is that we're not going to answer your questions about how we have the right to expropriate, which are part of these negotiations. I'm surprised by that, but I hear it. Secondly, there was a signed PSA. The PSA is unenforceable as written. There was no money changed of hands, and it was terminated, so there is no PSA on hand right now. If there was, I wouldn't be here talking to you all because there'd be no purpose to that. Also, I did not get a response to why the comps fail on their face under Louisiana expropriation law as well.
Thank you.
Just, okay.
Ms. McCarty? Any other public comment before I move on? Ms. McCarty? Is that it?
That's all.
Okay, good. You're on.
Excuse me, what is your name again?
My name?
Yes.
Yes, it's Matthew Simone.
Simone. Mr.
Yes.
Simone. Please interpret this for me. It is my understanding that we cannot pay the value for land that will have future improvements. We cannot pay for the future improvements of land because that there will be future improvements based on the actions that the port is doing and not on the actions that the owner is doing. So we can only pay for the value of the property that the owner has put into the property. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. That was Judge Perot in an opinion for the new buildings in the state capitol that wrote that. That is unequivocally correct.
Okay. So maybe I misunderstood your argument, but I thought you were trying to say that the port has to tell you what we're going to do with the land, and that might increase the value of the property.
That's not to do with the increase of the property. That's how I can understand what the authority is to expropriate, to know my position in the negotiation process. Every time that I negotiate for or against a landowner in expropriation, the first thing that's talked about is whether or not you have expropriation authority. Example being, if I am going to go build a pipeline in Plaquemine Parish, and I have expropriation authority. I guarantee you I can get a lower price because at the end of the day, you know I can get the property through expropriation. If I don't, you'll pay about double the price. It's just part of the negotiations. So I'm being told here, one, we're not going to tell you, and I can say this also, the revised statutes, 19, Title 34, I don't see LNG plant in the authority to expropriate by the port either. So there's another question there. Besides having a public purpose or not, it's also whether or not Title 34 or Title 19 gives the port the expropriation for this activity.
What do you feel that would be a reason to expropriate?
If you were going to build a terminal that you operate, the Lake Charles has done that. St. Bernard did it recently when they were operating. There was a big Supreme Court battle about that as well. The port has the authority, but in only authorized instances. I don't know that you have it here, and I don't have the answers to be able to tell.
Okay. And as Ms. Wolf said, we're under non-disclosures right at this time, so we cannot reveal what will occur in the future.
I don't agree with that because I haven't seen the NDA, but I did just hear the words LNG from this council a few minutes ago. So there's an LNG plant, right? I mean, I think that's what we're talking about if no one's going to confirm that. But I'm not sure that an LNG plant gives you the authority to expropriate or that you can expropriate for an LNG plant to then sell it to a third party.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Schultz.
I would just like to clarify that the port is on a path to be building on becoming a bigger landlord port. So there is no intent or plan for the port to purchase land and sell it to anyone else. It is for the port to expand and to grow.
Have to. Does that include leasing as well, or just selling? Will it be leased or operated by a third party?
Chris?
Yeah, I would, Melissa, you want to call them up to respond on the comps and what he referenced earlier? I would like to hear from them just because they're the experts that we hired.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon, everyone. Jacob Chris, Ladder and Bloom here again. I'm not going to comment on the methodology of the appraisal report, other than in our direction in hiring these appraisals, they were aware of this process potentially unfolding with time. So we would expect those answers to come out in the latter stage, the next steps of this process unfolding per Melissa's comment. And the appraisers that did this report are willing and able to answer questions at that time. Thank you.
Chairman, just a call for the question. I think we shouldn't be getting into litigation. I think everybody knows where they at on this. So why are we doing litigation right now?
I'm ready to vote. Machine is open. And the measure passes. Same votes as last time. Nays on districts 1, 7, 8, 9, and yeses on the rest. Next item.
C, an ordinance authorizing Charles Tilson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land owned by Norman Rouse and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
Yes.
Before I move, do we move?
Yes, actually, Nick has just advised that Mr. Rouse has executed the PSA. So we will be voting on 6.
So would you like to withdraw?
Yeah.
We're going to withdraw.
Okay. Read number 6, please.
An ordinance authorizing Charles Tilson, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to purchase land owned by Norman Rouse and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer rest for a second. Second by Champagne. Comment? Anyone from the table? Machine is open. And the ordinance is approved with no votes from 7, 8, 9, and yes votes from the remainder. remainder.
B, a resolution authorizing and directing Port Executive Director Charles D. Tilton to enter into discussions with the Plaquemines Parish government concerning the transfer of bond funds identified previously by the Plaquemines Parish government for replacement of the ferry ramps and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Seconded by Commissioner LaFrance. I will, rather than get into anything lengthy, I know this is something that's kind of a cleanup administratively, but you may want to comment.
Yeah, that's correct. It's an administrative action. The port had been in discussions with the parish regarding funds that were said to be available for replacing the Point Allahash ferry landing, and there was some confusion about that, and I think we've come to an agreement on what that amount would be, and there's an ordinance being introduced to move the money.
That was my next question. Okay. Public comment. Table. Anyone? Sheena's open. The ordinance is approved. The resolution is approved 9-0. Next item.
C will be deferred. D, an ordinance to amend the Port, Harbor, and Terminal District's 2023 operating expenditure budget, various divisions, various line items for changes in personal service costs, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey, and this has changes.
In the digest, the language on line 5, appropriate and transfer funding to cover cost of, has been removed, and approve and adopt has been added.
All right.
Line 5, we are removing appropriate and transfer funding to cover the cost of. Okay, and then on lines 5 and 6, you're adding approve and adopt. And then at the end of line 7, after the semicolon through the end of the digest, remove all that language. Then also on the entirety of section 3 from lines 33 to 37 has been removed. And those are all the changes.
Before I ask for a second, I need clarification. It's my understanding that we were going to not do any changes, that we were going to go with the ordinance as it was introduced, with the same language, and not with any subsequent language because it changed, the preamble changed the intent.
Right. So the preamble remained the same as the original.
The only thing that was changed is section 3.
So the only thing that should have been removed was section 3.
There was changes that were provided to me for the preamble also.
That was supposed to be taken off. We changed
Yeah,
that.
that was to be removed.
This is the last version.
Okay.
That was changed. That was not correct.
That was a discussion yesterday.
Yeah.
Right? The preamble stayed the same.
That preamble stayed the same. The only thing that
So,
changed.
Yeah, that's correct. So we actually had a meeting, the chair meeting on Tuesday, and we determined that the preamble needed to stay the same.
The changes were going to remain.
The only change was to remove section
Was
3.
was to remove section 3. That's it.
Well, there's changes on the digest. Okay. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Take it. Yeah, okay.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right,
Right.
yes. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. Okay.
With that, I'll offer. Ask for a second. Seconded by Commissioner Edwards. I'll give it to the administration. Well, first of all, any public comment?
Mr. Chairman.
Any public comment? Mr. Newsom.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment to this ordinance. My amendment on line 13, where it starts with the word "to grant," remove the entire left of the sentence. So, to grant 5% cost of living increase to eligible unclassified employees, and to be removed. Also, line 32, remove the whole line, which removes the section. Also, on line 40, the second word where it starts with the, same thing. The 5% cost of living increase for unclassified employees to be removed. So what that does also is now section 3 becomes section 2. And on line 45, now section 4 becomes section 3. And with that, I offer the amendment and ask for a second.
Amendment has been offered by Commissioner Newsom. Is there a second? Amendments have been seconded by Commissioner Konovich. And again, on the amendment, is there any public comment? Table? I will speak. So what this does, it takes away the cost of living increase for the eligible unclassified employees of the port. Does, yes or no? It takes away the cost of living adjustment for the eligible unclassified employees of the port. If that's a yes, we need to know it's a yes, that we're selectively taking pay raises, cost of living from some people. And that's my question.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Hold on.
I'm not in the queue, but check my mic.
Speak loud.
So, Dr. Gouy, the question is yes, and we spoke at length about this on. We spoke about this at length on Tuesday evening. Yes, that's exactly what it does, but it's for all, and I'll repeat again, all classified employees with the port. Unclassified, excuse me, I stand corrected.
Is that 3 people
Yes,
for the port
That is correct. That's
Yes.
well, there's 4 unclassified,
or unclassified?
including me.
including the director, the director, yeah. That's what it, yes, the answer is, yes, it does.
And that's what I thought it was. And of those 4 people, how many are really in an eligible position to get the cost of living? They've been here more than a year.
So first and foremost, there's 4 unclassified positions. I'm one of them. I am not seeking a cost of living increase, nor is it in my contract. So there's one of the 4 unclassified positions that's eligible for a 5% cost of living, and that is the deputy director. It is in her contract that she's eligible for that. There are 2 other unclassified employees. They are not eligible because it is in their contracts that they're eligible for a cost of living increase after being employed 1 year. And you know, they've only been with us for a matter of months. So there's only one unclassified position that the 5% cost of living increase is actually due, and that is the deputy director, and it is in her contract. So if we are, in fact, going to move forward with this, and I want to be very clear, I want to be on record, I disagree. I disagree. It is not in the best interest of the port, and I can't support it, right? So it's at one position. So what we would be talking about is we would need to change the deputy's contract to take that away.
Thank you, sir. And that's exactly how I understood it, that we're signaling out one person on the port staff. For what reason, I have no idea, and I will not support this. Now, if we need to change our policy, and we have a policy that we can do this, let it be. Let's bring it to a vote and see if we're going to change a policy. But for me to sit here and select one person who is qualified in her
All
contract,
classified employees, if you read the legislation, Dr. Blue.
eligible employees is what it says. And I think we've made the point that there is only one eligible employee of the 4 who are unclassified. So the meeting that you had on Tuesday night.
No. It was the meeting we had after thing in front of the port building with yourself.
Oh, well, we didn't.
Representative Schultz.
Okay,
and
you're right.
Representative
You're right.
McCarty.
I'm sorry.
I know you forgot about that.
No,
already.
well, I didn't forget. I just remember I didn't respond.
Oh, you responded.
So yeah, and I'm responding the same way now.
I understand.
Maybe with a little more clarity. So anyway, that's what we're faced with. So that's my position. That's how I understand it, and I think we ought to put it to a vote.
I would like to make a comment.
Well, Champagne is up next.
Yeah, I feel the same as Dr. Yu. I don't believe that you should cherry pick people because it causes a rippling effect. Because people wonder, who's next? Am I next? We have rules. You follow the rules. And if there's some clarity that needs to be done for folks who are not here, a long period of time, is it years, it's 6 months? I don't know. I'm unsure of that. And we need some clarity there. Apparently 2 people are not eligible. I don't know what that timeline is. Is it a year? Is it 6 months? I don't know. But to arbitrarily pick someone and say, well, you're not eligible, but not offer a reason why. Now, I know there's some discussion about Ms. Folse's contract coming up, but that's in August. So I stand with Dr. Gu in this. I'm not in favor of just picking one person out. I yield.
Commissioner Schultz.
So I was asked to look into this a little bit more, and first of all, it says eligible employees. Yes, currently, the only one eligible is, well, actually, no. Ms. Foles is eligible now if we grant it. It's not automatic per the contract. It's if we grant it to all employees. One of the other employees they don't have a contract. And according to Civil Service, which will process this, even though they're not Civil Service, they process it. She will get it right away. And then the way it reads is we're guaranteeing the third employee 5% now, even though she won't get into a year from now. So it does impact all. The only one does not impact is Mr. Tilson because his contract does not say that. But it does impact all of them. And I don't like guaranteeing first 5% basically a year from now to the employee. And then second of all, one, it will take effect right away. And third, Ms. Folse's contract says if we grant it. It doesn't say it's automatic. We all saw the email. Ms. McCarty asked for Mr. Garrett's legal opinion, and we all saw where he says it's not automatic. It's if we grant it. I just don't like, we talked about, Mr. Champagne brought up the contract. We talked about addressing Mrs. Folse's contract in January. I just don't see what the rush is to grant this when we're going to renegotiate or talk about her contract and extending it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we're singling out. I just don't like guaranteeing some 5% that's going to take effect a year from now. I'd rather wait and when it comes that time, address it now, address Mrs. Folse's contract like we agreed in January, and give her whatever percent raise, whether it's cost of living, merit, industry standard, whatever that is at that time, like we talked about. So I don't agree that it's singling out one employee. It's everybody is eligible. It's just when it takes effect. But Civil Service said that the one that started 3 months ago, she'll get it automatically because we voted for it in a year. One will get it right away, and Ms. Folse, which we referenced because of your contract, will get it right away as well. So that's my issue. Is some people just started, and we're basically turning around guaranteeing or giving right away 5%. And then Ms. Folse, I thought we agreed to kind of talk about in January extending the contract and talking about the raise. Civil Service, I have no problem with. Civil Service deserves a raise. It's in standard with the parish side. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem kind of with that issue of we're kind of roping everything in, and when we kind of agreed to wait. And budget hearings are right around the corner. Why can't this be handled then? Stuff like that. I have issues with the whole process. I yield.
Commissioner Edwards.
Yes. I'm for us honoring contract. To me, I'm hearing all the commissioners respond, but to me, it seemed like single out to me. Everything to me like we singing it out to me Because if we believe all other stuff we're saying, then we can let this go and we can make those decisions when the contract time comes. A lot of new employees, I talked to new employees who is excited, who just came on because they're going to get that 5% and they just started working. They're excited. So what we will do, what we'll be doing here today is no different we're doing for all these other new employees. So we are, to me, singling this out. I hope that we don't get to the level of doing this regardless of how we feel about the Pope budget and whatever. I just think, to me, if it crack like a duck is a duck, we're singling out. I just hope that we'll go on and approve this 5%, and when a contract come up, we can make whatever adjustment we need. I'm through.
One other thing I would like to add is something Mr. Edwards just said about getting it right away. Civil service requires you to wait 6 months before you get any pay raise. I would like to, not I'll say right now, but add a policy, in our policy, that this will change for in the future, unclassified employees, if we do vote on cost of living increase, that it would not. I know Ms. Folse's and Ms. McNair's, it says so in the contract that if granted it's after a year, but our regular, if we add unclassified employees in the future and they're just regular, not contract employees, I would like to add in there that any cost of living increase by policy would not take effect until after a year of employment. That way we won't run into this problem in the future. You know what I'm saying? Because of the way it's currently interpreted by civil service.
Right. Okay.
And so that's my position. What you just said, we can do that. And we can move with this and we can come back making changes. So if this come up again, we won't have that problem. But to make the decision right now, to me, would be unfair. We need to treat her like we treat every employee. Like I said, we got so many people who just got hired and they're excited that they came in at the right time. And I don't think the majority of Black and Parish employees would have a problem if we do this. I'm through, Mr. Chairman.
I did ask our attorney to look into this, so I just want him to speak to the issue.
I looked at the contract.
Danny's mic isn't on.
Danny.
Coming on.
Turn
All
it
right.
off.
Okay. Did look at it. There are actually two provisions of the contract deal with increasing compensation. One, y'all just have the authority to grant an increase under the contract. There is a provision that entitles her to receive a cost of living increase if a cost of living increase the same as other port employees. So since she is an unclassified, I think it would be the same as other unclassified employees. So if a cost of living is awarded to the unclassified employees as a group, she would be entitled to it because she has completed her first year. She has reached her anniversary date.
Anyone else? Machine is open.
Good night.
Councilmember LaFrance.
Yes. I just want to say that. Yeah. I am in complete support of Ms. Folse. Ms. Folse came on, and she holding two positions. She holding as a port attorney, and she's holding as a assistant deputy director. I know many of y'all sitting at the table don't know what our assistant deputy director, how it was previously. And believe me when I tell you, it is a truly pleasure working with Ms. Folse. At the last council meeting, we passed a raise for our governmental employee because of what is going on with the port, because of the money that the port is generating. Mr. Tillerson, he put his team together, and they are working tremendously great together. If we're going to move this port forward, we have to respect his wishes, and we have to support his team. I think he put a great team together. And Mr. Volz, I'm truly sorry you in this spot right now. But we shouldn't pick and choose on who get raises. Because if it was so, there was some people with their last raise that we gave our employees that I know didn't deserve it. But we didn't single anybody out, and we gave it to everybody. And with that, I yield.
Mr. Champagne.
I would just like some clarity on what are we voting for, because we had so many changes on this. I want to make sure I clearly understand what a vote yes does and a vote no does before I vote. I yield.
A yes vote will be for the amendment to take away the 5% from eligible unclassified employee. That's what a yes vote is. A no vote, the amendment fails, and we go back to the original motion, which grants the 5% cost of living to eligible unclassified employees. Now, I'm not saying we don't have to modify our policy, but that policy hasn't been modified as of right now. And after what I heard from Mr. Garrett, my position on the amendment stays the same, that I will not support it. Commissioner Convich.
Yeah, I emailed and got the contracts for all the unclassified people today and looked over them. And I remember one of them, we voted to up the price from 80 to 90,000, I think it was. And then after all these contracts are signed, we're supposed to vote on them or vote before it gets signed. When did we approve for one of them to have 4 weeks of vacation from the day one?
Well, the contract, if you read it, it was increased to $90,000 excluding benefits. So vacation time was negotiated in there, but that's not in what was approved was the salary. So, and I would just like to take this moment. I think that's the question that you're raising. I mean, there is executive function here. So I think the council unanimously voted to bring me in to manage the port, to manage this staff, to manage the unclassified staff as well as the classified staff. And I think I'm actually paid to make recommendations on whether or not someone deserves a raise or not, whether someone is going to get a job or not.
The 4 weeks vacation wasn't recommended. You just took it upon yourself to give it.
Well, it was the
employees that's got over 20 years of work and they don't have 4 weeks of vacation.
Yeah, but that's in the benefit package, and it was not included in the salary. And if you read the contract, you have it. It says excluding benefits. So yes, I took it as executive function, and I did allow for 4 weeks because that was the only way to get that employee to take the position, a critical position at that.
You should have came to us and okayed it first.
Well, the contract read excluding benefits.
And?
Well, vacation time is not, it's not in the salary. And so the board, the council did approve that contract.
Don't we pay for vacation?
The council, so the salary is what she's getting.
And we pay for vacation days.
Which is excluded from the salary, which is benefits.
I can see we ain't getting nowhere here.
I mean, and I think the other thing that I would just like to add is we're in a very competitive environment in the state of Louisiana and in the Gulf of Mexico. Plaquemines, when you look I provided a presentation to Commissioner Newsom, Commissioner Jersich, and Commissioner Schultz last week, and I showed the American Association of Port Authorities analysis on what ports are paid across the United States. And I extracted data, and it is clear that Plaquemines Port is the lowest paid port in the state of Louisiana when you talk about the executive team, those 5 positions that we talked about. And the state of Louisiana's ports are actually lower than the rest of the ports in the Gulf of Mexico. My point is that we are building a port for the future, and we have a lot of really, really good opportunities in front of us. And the only way that we are going to be successful is with attracting and retaining talent. And I sit here today in front of the council embarrassed for Ms. Foss, because she's sitting here and she's listening to us talk about whether or not she deserves a 5% cost of living increase when she works day and night. Her and I on emails at night, early in the morning, weekends, and from my point of view as the executive director, she deserves a cost of living increase. And my evaluation of her is she exceeds expectations. I yield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Mr. Tillis, I appreciate your soapbox talk there. This was done not to say that anyone is not working hard at the port. I don't know if anybody took that out or thinks that. That's not the case here. The case is it had to be done like this due to the fact of civil service. And I know these employees are not civil service. We could not, and I know y'all saying, some folks have said we cherry picking. That's why this was done like it is, because we're not. We're taking all eligible classified employees and putting them together. We do know there is not many with the port. We do know that. But that's why this was done as it was done to do this. Since we'll get into details, I hate to do it, but I'll yield. I said enough, and we'll let the votes let him go.
I want to be clear that this is, well, I'm going to have Mr. Garrett talk about the eligible employees, which is where I'm coming from on interpretation and why I'm taking the stance. But I want to be clear, this has nothing to do with Ms. Foles. I am going by what you stated, Mr. Tillison, that we would visit her contract in January. And now we're trying to make changes to the overall pay, which we were going to address in January. If we want to address it now and give the cost of living, then there's really nothing to do except for just extend the contract in January. But it has nothing to do with Ms. Foles directly. I want Mr. Garrett to clarify the eligible, we keep saying eligible employees, and we're trying to act like it's one person, but it's really not. Well, I want Mr. Garrett to address that really quick.
Well, let me clarify. Eligible right now. Now, the other 3 are eligible at their 1-year anniversary, but they are not there.
But they will automatically get it based on this vote. I'm going to have Mr. Garrett.
Well, what I will share with you is if those other 2 employees are not performing, I am not going to recommend giving them a raise, and they will not get it.
You can't do that. Based on this vote right here, the way this reads, I'm going to have Mr. Garrett clarify, it's automatic by the legislation.
What I'm saying is if there's a reason not to give a raise, there is a process for getting there.
We would have to vote on it to remove it.
And we will.
You're singling out employees at that point.
And no, it wouldn't be singling them out. They will be. I will assure you that this executive team at this table, they can all share with you that we have constant reviews on performance, and I looked very closely at the performance of the entire team, and I question everything that we do and that we don't do, how we do it, how we don't do it, okay. and I provide assessments.
And this goes back to one of my issues with the thing is, in order to change the salary mid-year, it will have to come through the council. Instead of being adjusted through the budget process, like to me like it should be, then you prepare your budget with raises how you see fit for your unclassified. Now, civil service is set, but you would adjust well, I guess you really can't because they're contract employees, but it would but other than that, it would have to go through the budget process, which is what, yeah. How would you change?
There is no budget, there's no variance. There's no variance in the budget.
You're just going to randomly increase salaries that we set?
What I'm saying is, as long as we are under our budget threshold, we don't have to do a budget amendment.
No, sir.
For salaries.
We set a manpower table with that salary. And you're saying that you're going to break that manpower table?
I am not saying that we're going to break the manpower table, but what I am saying is...
Okay, we'll talk about this later, but I would like to, Mr. Garrett, to clarify the eligible employees, that what we are actually voting on and how it impacts each of the 3 employees. Just to be clear. Mr. Garrett?
Again, I haven't reviewed the other contracts we're talking about. It's my understanding, though, that they have language essentially the same as in the deputy director's contract, which states that if y'all grant a COLA to a class of employees, then they are entitled to that COLA at their anniversary date.
And that means, so if we vote on 5% today, at their 1 year, they will automatically get the 5%, correct?
That's my opinion.
So everybody is eligible, and that's I don't like guaranteeing anything a year from now without knowing what's going on. So as you said, you would make the adjustment and not recommend a raise, but legal opinion is that if we grant it right now, it is automatic. That is my whole issue, is we're voting on something that is, we're guaranteeing raises a year from now. We talked about waiting to January, which I think Ms. Foltz does need to have her contract looked at and extend it, but we agreed to look at that in January, and every employee is eligible right now. It's just, when does it take effect?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. We did agree to take a look at that, and Ms. Foltz actually she went with it knowing that that's in her contract, but she's been badgered over this 5% week in and week out, and she's finally to the point, well, look, it's in my contract. It's in her contract.
I'm going to call for question, but I just want to make, you say it's in the contract, and that contract reads if we grant it to all other employees.
Well, what I would say
is, you say week in, week out. We just introduced this 2 weeks ago.
My evaluation of Mrs. Foltz is she exceeds expectations, and I recommend that she get the 5% increase.
Ms. Adler, sorry, I didn't know you were behind.
Go ahead, Tom.
Now, again, I'm ready to call for the question, but I just want some clarity again of what we vote. If we vote no right now, we're going to go back to the original part and to honor the ordinance to give Ms. Foltz her 5%.
Correct.
I just want to know, because this is going too far for me.
Question's been called. Machine is open. A yes vote is for the amendment. A no vote will revert back to the original question. The amendment fails with yes votes from districts 3 and 6, and we will go back to the original motion. I think we talked enough, yeah. And the question has been called. And it is approved, 9 to nothing. Next item.
8, approval of the September 28th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Offered by Franz and seconded by Jurisic. Machine is open on the minutes of September 28th. And the minutes are approved, 9 to nothing. Entertain a motion to adjourn, so offered by Commissioner Newsom and seconded by Commissioner LaFrance. The machine is open. What's the time, brother?
Both of them adjourned.
gone. That's okay. We got it. We're adjourned at 5:44.